Hello, everybody. This is Kendall, and we are live on Facebook. I have on my Beer 30 podcast, or whatever you call it, live Facebook cast. I don't know what the word is. I have Gay Gilmore from Optimism Brewing joining me today from beautiful Capitol Hill, Washington, kind of the epicenter of the universe right now, at least around Seattle it is. So, first thing I want to say is cheers. I'm going to pour myself a beer because that's what this is all about, is beer. And then I want to ask you a question. Basically, how comfortable are you talking about some of the things that you guys have been doing up there on Capitol Hill lately?
I'm really comfortable talking about it. We've been through a lot over the last few weeks and last few months, if you pile COVID on top of it as well. But luckily, over the last few days, things have calmed down a lot. We've made a lot of progress internally. I think there's been a lot of change in the neighborhood. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, you guys you haven't exactly been shy about what you've been doing up there. I know that situations like this arise in a lot of breweries tend to want to kind of just be quiet and, maintain, stay in a neutral corner, shall we say. But you guys have always been real big supporters of your community, and you've always been like a community hub. So how's that translating now that you are 2 blocks away from the epicenter of the Seattle? I don't even know what to call it anymore. Is there? you're at ground zero up there. Is there a new term?
There is a new name. They are calling themselves the CHOP now, CHOP. It was previously named, and I'm not even sure by whom, Chaz. So it was the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, which is really not a great label. I think it really inspired a lot of people to think that it was about being law-free and anarchy and things like that, and that's not at all what they're trying to do. So I think the rename is actually a really good one because it is saying this is the Capitol Hill organized protest. It's saying we're organized, we're not lawless, and it says that we're here because we're protesting. And so I think it's a much more accurate name and one that can't be as manipulated by media when that's not their intent at all.
Yeah, and the reports that the reports are just all over the place, but
all over the board.
I trust the people that I know that have been up there more than I trust what I'm seeing on the news, and I'm hearing a lot of positive things about the peaceful nature of what's going on up there, and there's a lot of tension still. It must have been really scary a few days ago when things got really intense. But since that all went down, I just keep hearing. I have a nephew and another gal I know who've both been up there quite a bit over the last few days, and one of them was actually volunteered at the I don't know what they call it, the free store, there's
a couple co-ops basically.
Yeah, there you go, the co-ops, where they're the free co-ops where they're just giving away bottled water and fruit and power bars and stuff. But it's all and if you see not so much what you're seeing on the media is maybe not as realistic as some of the stuff that's going on. A lot there, it seems more like it's like an organized protest, but also almost like a street fair environment, where there's just a lot of peaceful people just learning about the situation and learning about the issue at hand. So I know where I stand on this, and I stand with you guys and with everybody else on that particular issue. But I want to thank you guys for what you've done. And why don't you tell us a little bit, when we say that you have supported the community through this, why don't you tell us what Optimism has done?
Yeah, well, let me tell you kind of the whole story of what happened here, because it was pretty unique in the way it kind of broke down. And it was right around June 1st. There were protests that were starting to happen right at the end of May. But nothing was as organized, and there wasn't a lot happening directly at the East Precinct. And right at June 1st, we got the go-ahead on, surprisingly, that we could open for phase 1.5. And we were nervous about the kind of protests that were kind of starting to happen here. And we were like, you know what, this is This is not a great time for us to turn on a dime and open, although we had prepared lots of plans to open our business. It didn't quite feel like it was going to be a safe environment, given what had been happening in Minnesota and other parts, right? So there were protests that night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. And the peaceful marches were happening during the day. But of course, this is our neighborhood. So we were watching live streams on Twitter and Facebook from individuals every single night. And it was extremely tense. And around 1 o'clock in the morning, police were issuing dispersal orders, throwing flashbangs, throwing tear gas. There were the rubber bullets. Like, we could see it all live. And we live 1 mile from the brewery ourselves. I could hear it from my bedroom, and it was terrifying. Like, it sounded like a war zone. So we were very happy that we were like, no, this is not safe. You can't bring customers into an environment like this. It was just really, really crazy and really dangerous, because you read about those things, and people, if they get hit with them, they can actually be life-threatening. These are not non-violent mechanisms of dispersal at all, especially during the time of COVID, right? To be shooting tear gas is super irresponsible.
Well, I have family on the. See, I had a brother-in-law was pretty seriously involved with a lot of the police departments, like kind of their riot type defense and procedures and stuff. And he introduced me to the idea of less lethal. And I always thought that that less lethal is a good alternative. But less lethal suggests that it's less lethal than what? Rubber bullets are not as damaging as real bullets. And so it's like, on one hand, I understand the need for these things, but but it's really rough to see protesters in the United States of America, to see protesters have to deal with tear gas and rubber bullets and flashbangs. It's not the America that any of us want to live in.
No. And I don't doubt that there were protesters who were throwing water bottles and aggravating police and using, some, calling them pigs, or using speech that would be really irritating if I was a police officer, right? Like, this is my job. I signed up for a pretty hard job here. And yet those are not reasons, they're hired there. I would yell. Someone threw a water bottle at me, I might go yelling and go crazy at them. But I'm not hired as a police officer to stand there. They need to learn how to be able to just take that and not strike back. Not having an umbrella be pulled down and seeing that as a threat, or an umbrella in the face is not enough to be a threat. It was a nightmare, and we were like, there's no way we can bring customers into this environment. It is not safe for our staff to work, but certainly not to bring guests in either. So we just said no. And we stayed very quiet. And one night we had a window that got hit with a rock. We've been tagged. Our building was tagged pretty heavily. And I know we're not nearly as bad as some of the other businesses, but during the first week, we suffered some damage. And I'm not going to get mad about that, because I understood what was happening. Like, I was watching it live, and I can see why people were really upset. That said, once the police left, it became very, very safe. It was a completely different world. And we, over the past 10 days, I think we're going on now. I feel like I've lived a lifetime in the last few weeks, and a whole other lifetime before that with COVID. But it's just gotten so much safer that we are actually preparing to open again. But when it came time to look deep inside ourselves, which I think everyone is doing now that the Black Lives Matter movement has really hit this tipping point for all of us. We were just so brokenhearted, because normally optimism does take a stand. Like, we are constantly, donating to nonprofits, giving our space, being an actor in the community. We will often endorse initiatives that we think are within our why and what we believe in as a company. And we didn't have anything that we could do. we're in debt. We haven't been open for 3 months. We weren't even able to have customers inside. Our staff is furloughed. We were like, what can we do? And so we did a lot of soul searching. We've been doing a lot of internal work on what does it mean for us to become an anti-racist company. And we said, you know what, the one thing we can do is we can say as a business in this neighborhood, we support what the protesters are doing, and we can let them use our bathrooms, because there were only 2 when they first started. There were 2 porta potties at Cal Anderson, and the line was hours and hours long. When all these people were out protesting, I was just like heartbroken to see people waiting in that line. And so we opened the doors, and our staff has been volunteering for a few hours every night to just wait and sit and protect the place while people come in and use the restroom. And it's a steady stream. There's a lot more porta potties now too, so I don't want to completely throw the city under the bus. They've been doing better, but there's still nothing like using a real bathroom versus a porta potty.
Yeah, and when people say, "Oh, you open your bathrooms," that's nice. You guys have pretty serious bathrooms. I mean, I appreciate. I remember when you guys first opened, being up there visiting the brewery for the first time, like going into the bathrooms and going, "Now this is what you want to see: a brewery tap room, with overbuilt bathrooms." It was almost like going to a sports arena. It's like, oh my God, this bathroom is huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, so, we do. We do have a pretty good
I bet there were a lot of people with their legs crossed out front that were pretty happy when you guys opened your bathrooms to the public like that.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, people who know us and people who don't, because there's a lot of self-organization now too. So there's maps that tell you what businesses are donating bathroom, what businesses have water, what businesses are open and welcoming, and things like that too. So there's a lot of people up here who have never even heard of Optimism before who are coming in to use the bathrooms.
So the other thing in addition to the restrooms, which is a vital necessity, you guys have had a lot of donations, and you've had like the free co-op up the street. You guys have had, and first of all, we should make sure people know. I mean, how you guys are 2.5 blocks away from the East Precinct?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
fair.
I say
you're
we're
around the corner,
adjacent. Yeah, or we're in unincorporated CHOP, maybe you could call it. Yeah, we're a little ways away. We're not in the center of it. Our streets are not blocked off. You have to walk to come here. But yeah, the donations are astounding. Like we said, look, we can do this. We are going to have a charging station. You'll be able to fill up your water bottles, and you can use the bathrooms. But as soon as we open the doors, people just brought boxes and boxes of stuff, water bottles. We have 3 huge tables now, granola bars, fresh fruit, some candy, cookies. We've had full meals, 2 huge tables of food. We have another huge table of medical supplies. So Band-Aids, everything you need for when you get hit with tear gas, tampons, masks, gloves, sanitizer, anything that you might need to be out protesting safely. And we don't know who these people are that have dropped it off. They just keep showing up, and we're now coordinating with some of the other people over there and providing some storage place, because we're about to be open, so we may not be able to host all of these donations. We want to make sure that they get to the right tables in the main shop. But it's the outpouring of support from the community who say, I can't be there, I can't be the one on the front line, but I want to help out in my own way. It's truly incredible.
And so just to be clear, when we're talking about you guys having basically a big donation station where people are dropping stuff off and people can come and pick it up, it's pretty impressive. I mean, the other day you guys posted a picture on Facebook. I don't remember if it was last week or just the other day, because time melds together right now. But I mean, it was an impressive pile of stuff. You had not just a lot of variety of stuff, but you had quite a booty of stuff there, man. I mean, your treasure trove of supplies for protesters.
I know.
It's impressive. It's
amazing. And I mean, if you walk to the protest, the No Cop Co-op, which is one, but there's a couple of different donation spots. It's extensive. It's huge. And I'm self-organized and just amazing.
And if just depending on who's listening, I want to make sure that people know the truth, regardless, depending on which news media outlet you pay attention to. These are items that are being donated by people in the community that are going out and buying the stuff and then donating it. It's not coming from anywhere else. So that's one thing. That's a truth that some people need to hear. Another truth that I think people need to hear is there's nothing that you told me in the last 15 minutes or whatever it's been that made it sound like you were being extorted to do what you're doing.
No.
I know. See, you laugh about it, but you realize that there are people out there who watch certain news medias. Yeah. And it's like, I can't believe that. And like, I know from having talked to you and read everything that you put together about this, it's like, hey, people, nothing could be farther from the truth. There's not. Yeah, this isn't the mafia that's taken over Capitol Hill.
No, and in fact, and the people who are there, they've been super appreciative and so engaged and willing to do whatever we need and to help us out too. Now, I can't say that there aren't businesses that maybe aren't upset, right? That it's probably difficult if you're inside the shop to get deliveries through. There's a lot of graffiti up there, a lot. Some of it's wonderful and some of it's not, but you don't get to choose. I don't get to choose what's the most beautiful thing. And this is a difficult time. So I know that I'm probably on the luckier end by being adjacent and not right inside. I mean, if you're inside, it's great. You probably have some customers if you can be open, but I'm sure it's making things a little bit more difficult too. And I don't want to say that that's not there, but the fact of the matter is that the people who are there and enjoying the shop, they are 100% calm, willing to be educated. There's tons of learning going on. And if there are problems and businesses are being hurt, they need to talk to the city because it is the city's responsibility. And they could take leadership and say, we're ready to sit down and negotiate with you guys. We're ready to figure out a way to make this community policed instead of police policed. There's a lot of options the city has, and they are not taking those options yet. So even as a business member, I would say we need to be talking to the city and getting them to hear our side of the story instead of just blaming it on the CHOP. This would be true of any other action. We just don't need police officers to decide whether or not graffiti is good or not,
Right.
And we, as Optimism, we came out very strongly and we issued our own demands, like some of the marches are doing, because, as I was saying, normally if there's an initiative on the ballot, we can take a stand on that. We generally don't endorse a candidate because candidates can change their minds, but I don't have an initiative to endorse. There's nothing that I can say as a business person. As an individual, I can go march, which I have done. But as a business in this neighborhood, I need to say, hey, I've watched so much scary damage and I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And if I can't use my platform now, when will I be able to? So as a company, we got together, we decided what we felt like were important things for us to say on the Black Lives Matter movement. And so we put them right out on social and said, yes, we really believe that we should right size the police department and cut funding by 50% and use that money to go to other programs. We said we demand new leadership because we feel like what has been going on in this city has not been effective. It has not been empathetic. And we worry that we cannot trust those leaders anymore. After they told us that they would not use tear gas and 2 nights later fired tear gas again on our own citizens, I just don't know how to earn that trust back. It's really tough. So I feel like we need some fresh movement. And there's a series of other things that we said as well. I mean, but we're not going to be afraid to say that. And we've gotten some blowback on social media. I've gotten some angry emails, and that's okay. Everyone gets to have their own opinion, but also ultimately you don't have to come in. You don't have to be here, and that's okay. I understand. But it's private property, and this is my business, and we get to say what we believe in too. And I think this is such a crucial issue.
And I think most people absolutely respect your right as a business owner to do whatever it is that you think is right for you. I mean, but truthfully, these days people agree with your right to do that as long as you're doing what they want you to do. So but that's just the world we live in. But, and the thing is about this whole thing that you're talking about is like, nobody said that this kind of, I don't want to call it revolution, but I'll say this kind of evolution, this kind of change, it's not pretty. It's never pretty. And if we could just get it all done behind closed doors in the city council, in the state legislature and stuff, then we would have already done it. But this is apparently what it's going to take to wake some people up and make some things change in the right direction. But let's move on to something. Let's move on to a happier topic. This is all great, and I'm glad we straightened a few things out for those people who pay attention to the Washington Beer blog, but also pay attention to some disparate, untrue news sources. So let's talk about your reopening. You're getting ready to reopen for normal sit down and have a pint kind of service. So, and you guys have, I've read your plan about what you've done. And it seems like you've benefited from a lot of what other people have gone through, because you're doing it the way that I would say is absolutely perfect. So why don't you tell us about what your plans are for your reopening?
Oh, good. Well, thanks for the endorsement, Kendall. I appreciate it. We've had a lot of time to think this through. So we have spent a lot of time kind of figuring out, well, what would we do? And we did a ton of research too, just looking at other countries and what they did as they opened and things like that to arrive at our plan. So a couple things key pieces that I think are different for us. We benefit from having a really large space. So, we can actually spread out our tables, which you're probably seeing behind me right now, and still accommodate quite a few people. We have a very large beer garden too. And we have really high ceilings and big fans and lots of windows. And so we feel really good about just the natural aspects of Optimism for reopening. But we also are known for having a very long line at our counter to get a beer. It runs real fast, but it can get really packed in. And we're like, can't do that anymore. First of all, you just got to move to table service. You have to cut down on all of the people walking around in the building and just make it so it's your staff that are walking around, people who are well trained in how to act, how to social distance, and just cut down on that traffic. So we will be table service, and we are going to do online ordering from your table. I've been working on the app even tonight. So hopefully it will be just an app, but if we can't get the app running, we have a setup so that you can text your order as well. So that cuts down on one more visit to your table. If you can order right there, someone will still just bring the beers to your table. The other thing that's a key difference for us is that we have switched to a reservations model. And we did that for a couple reasons. One is, of course, COVID. Like, the thing that would just hurt me so bad is if all I did was take the line in front of the counter and put it outside with people waiting to get in and not knowing if there's a table and making them wait for 2 hours outside when, maybe we're too busy and we're booked. So we have thrown up a reservation system, and you can reserve now online and get a table. And we hope that people will do that because we don't want people waiting outside. The other thing that the reservation system that we chose allows is that it has an online wait list. So even if you don't have a reservation and we're fully booked, but you want to be a walk-in, great. You can add yourself to the wait list. You'll get a text message when your tables arrive. So you could go walk around in the shop or do something else, but don't just stand in a line outside because it's just not safe. We're on a very busy street here, so we want to avoid that from pedestrian traffic is what I mean. But we also brought up reservations because it helps us as a business. Like, we don't know who's ready to come out yet. We don't know if we should reduce our hours or maybe we shouldn't be open on Monday. We don't have the answers to any of those things. So by putting a reservation system up online, we can figure out what people really want. I can staff better because, I don't know how to staff for the reduced capacity that we have, things like that. If it's a rainy day, boy, it's going to be way different because my beer garden is not going to be full. So the reservation system really allows us to respond with staffing too.
So, but you'll still be, if you're only at, if you have tables available and somebody just shows up at the door and there's nobody on the wait list, you can still get in and get a table.
Yes.
Yeah,
you absolutely can. And we'll be able to like take you and seat you immediately. If for some reason we are fully booked right at that moment, again, you just add yourself to the wait list, and then you can, run across the street, grab your hamburger at 8 ounce, and then come back. And, the host should be able to tell you how long it might be. This is all super new to us, so I hope everyone will be patient, because I'm sure we're going to mess a ton of stuff up. We may find that this is just absurd, or not the right thing to do. But if we don't try, we won't know.
Well, you're smart to kind of plan for some of these things in advance. Yeah, Fremont, another really popular tap room and beer garden like yours.
And they're big, yeah.
Yeah, big like yours and popular like yours. They, when they first opened, I guess it was Saturday before last, they kind of got swamped with more people than they were expecting. I don't know how they didn't expect to have like 1 million people show up, but it happened. And I talked to them about it after the fact, and they were telling us that, one of the things that they found difficult and disheartening was they can control everything that goes on inside their building and inside their beer garden, in terms of how people are social distancing, who's masking up, how people are behaving. But outside, that's why you don't want to have a line, because outside you can't go out there and just start telling people out there in the public what to do. So they decided that they would move. From what I understand, they've moved to a reservation system with a wait list, and I think they did reservations. They certainly have an online wait list, and they figured that out damn quick. They took a little bit of a shot on social media. Some people were unfair about that. They just immediately decided they needed to be the COVID police, and that and they were trying to I'm the only person who wanted to go to Fremont this weekend, so damn it, nobody else should have. But they figured it out damn quick, and I'm glad that you guys have have the ability to address it prior to it actually becoming a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, good and bad, right? Like, we couldn't open earlier because of what was going on in the neighborhood. We would love to have been open. Believe me, we're ready to pour beer again. We're ready to, have some income again. All those things.
Really?
But yeah, desperately. But I'm super sympathetic too. I mean, we are making hard decisions as well, because, you hear these stories about people who refuse to wear a mask, and that puts our staff and other guests in danger. And so we are making that, we don't make it a requirement. We make it as strongly suggested as possible, because that's what the state and the city have also said. And we will provide masks to people who don't bring them. But, that can be a touchy issue. You're talking about a whole new program inside of restaurants and bars and breweries that has never been there. And you hear that people get very upset about some of those issues. So you have to there's a lot of retraining that we're doing. We're talking to people about how to talk and communicate when you have a mask on, because you can't see someone's face. So you have to learn how to smile with your eyes and over gesture and things like that. It's really tough, and I hope people are patient with it. One of the other things that we've elected not to do is we are not selling beer to go right now. We want to get our system down first before we introduce the ability for people to bring in a growler. Like, we want to make sure we can serve the people who are inside before we are bringing in additional people to a counter to fill a growler or have cans to go. But more than that, we really don't want to sell cans to go while there is still a pretty intense protest going on. I think there's lots of people who are out there who can handle, drinking responsibly, but we don't really want to be in a position to be enabling the people who are not drinking responsibly. Like, we just keep saying, like, I would be so crushed if I saw, a can of Be Juicy crushed into the curb right by the East Precinct. That is not what Optimism is about. And we're trying to take this really clear stand. So for the time being, we're not selling beer to go until we feel like that's really a safe thing to do. And, I'm not stupid. There are certainly people in the park who are drinking. But we just want to continue for the experience to be here, at Optimism.
Well, it sounds like a great plan, and I hadn't thought about that aspect of. I know that you stopped selling beer to go a while ago, and I was kind of like, I wonder why that happened. I thought maybe you were getting short on supplies, and you wanted to make sure you had enough to serve pints to people when you reopened or whatever. But now it makes more sense.
Actually,
more sense.
We stopped. Well, there was when COVID started happening and they shut down dine-in, we could still remain open for beer to go, like all the breweries. And we did it for about 3 or 4 days. I can't remember exactly. It's been a lifetime ago. And we were doing our own delivery. We had great response. We were doing really good business. We felt like we could stay open and, keep some people employed doing that. But we had a team-wide meeting and just said, is this what we should be doing right now? We could, but should we? And as a team, even though everyone knew that this would have meant that people were going to be furloughed, the team said, no, right now it feels like we should be at home. And there's still beer out there. There's still other breweries that can sell people beer. It's just not a great place for us to be, especially we're this close to the hospitals. We're right in the center of the city. So we elected to stop doing to-go beer, period. And we had just gotten in an order of crowlers, actually, which we sold to Ravenna to enable them to keep going. And so that's where we came from on that.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to say about your reopening? You got anything? You got anything that's been sitting in barrels while this has been going on, or anything fun like that?
We don't have any of the barrels coming. We don't have any of the beer coming out of barrels in particular. Like we're basically back to 2016. We're not going to have a lot of beers on tap. We haven't been brewing over the last 3 months. We do have our most popular beers. We're going to have a couple of IPAs. We have Be Juicy, which is our number one seller. We're going to have a dark beer. But yeah, it's not going to be quite like the Optimism. You can't just turn a switch and have it just go back to the way it was. I mean, for big regional breweries who are constantly brewing, yeah, it's different.
Yeah, the breweries that are the packaging product, they continue to brew throughout this whole process. But for the breweries like you that focus primarily on taproom sales, there was no reason to do that because you didn't have any beer getting sold in the taproom.
Yeah.
But now, hopefully we can get turned around, and hopefully a lot of things are going to change in the near future.
I hope so.
For a lot of different things, the beer industry and just for America in general, if you ask me. I think that's important. Yeah. I'm freaking ready for it. I'm tired of this being an issue all of my damn life. Mm-hmm. It's been a pain in the butt for all of us, and you guys have done a masterful job of navigating it. And I want to thank you for coming on and for being so straightforward and so honest. I mean, the way that you guys have dealt with this, I've been like proud of you guys, because you've been so you wore it. And that's one of the things that I always say. I just want people to stand up and tell me what they believe and tell me where they stand. I can make my own decisions after that, but don't hide anything. Don't BS me. And you guys have been very transparent through all of this. You guys have always been a very transparent company about what your goals were with Optimism and everything from the time you started. And I have always really appreciated that. And I really appreciate you coming on today with me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kendall. I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk about what's going on in our neighborhood and dispelling some of the rumors. I really hope that everyone gets a chance, no matter what you think about what's going on, you should come down and see with your own eyes what is happening in the CHOP, because it's not probably what you think. There's a lot going on. There's a gorgeous Black Lives Matter mural on the street now, and just a lot of different things happening. And so it's really worth the visit. And certainly we feel very safe now, and we're opening. And I think you should feel very safe here too. So.
Right on. So we'll come up, and you guys open Wednesday, right?
Wednesday we're taking our first reservations. But you can online reserve right now, but we will be open for business. We'll be pouring our first beers on Wednesday as well.
Right on. I'm pretty sure you're going to see me up there pretty soon.
Terrific.
All right. Well, it's been great talking to you. And once again, thanks a lot for joining me, and have a great rest of your evening and have a great reopening experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gay.
Bye, Kendall.